Yo, what's going on YouTube? What's going on Raider Nation? This is your boy Byron Live 95 back at y'all with another video. And today I wanted to do a video on this debate that seems to be a debate almost every season with Derek Carr. The Derek Carr debate, whether you love him, whether you hate him, whether you think he should be extended and be with the Raiders for the rest of his future, or if you think that it's time to move on from Derek Carr. So what I'm going to do here is make a 50-50 perspective on the Derek Carr situation. If you are pro Derek Carr, I'm going to say some stuff that you're really going to like, you're really going to agree with, and then there's going to be some stuff that you're not going to agree with, and it's stuff that's going to make you uncomfortable. And if you're somebody who's anti-Derek Carr, I'm going to make some points in this video that you're going to really like, and I'm also going to say some things that you are going to disagree with and things that are going to make you uncomfortable. I want to get it from both sides of perspectives, and at the end, you guys let me know in the comment section what you guys think about the one they call Derek Carr. Okay, now let's get into the video. The two main topics I've seen about Derek Carr is, has the Raiders organization failed Derek Carr, and is Derek Carr on the hot seat at the end of the year? And I'm going to give you perspectives on both sides. I'm going to tell you why the Raiders organization has failed Derek Carr numerous times and haven't put the best pieces around him to be successful, and I'm also going to tell you why the Raiders didn't really fail Derek Carr and they have put pieces in place and maybe hasn't done a good enough job. Yes, I know, I already see you guys in the comment section talking about what are you talking about. We're gonna get to it. Like I said, we're gonna go on both sides. We're also gonna talk about if Derek Carr is on the hot seat this year. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into this. Now let's look at all 8 years of Derek Carr. So we're talking about all his 8 years and see, has this Raiders organization put the best pieces for him to succeed? And I'm gonna tell you right now, no. And we're gonna go on this side first. I'm gonna tell you why they haven't. The defense. We all know about this defense. We all know that with Derek Carr, he's never really had a good defense. Not even an average defense. It's either below average or it's just horrible. And the Raiders have failed. I'm not getting this guy the best defensive weapon so we can compete. Now, yes, we had Khalil Mack, but other than that, could you really name a star on that defense? Really, and I'm talking about a star, not good players, a star on the defense. Charles Woodson, Khalil Mack, and it ends right there. We have failed to get the pieces to get pressure. The only person that was getting pressure was Khalil Mack at one point. And then you have to look at it like this. There have been 2 seasons under Derek Carr where we finished the NFL dead last in sacks. One with Khalil Mack and one without Khalil Mack. That's on management, that's on free agency, that's the draft, and that's when you gotta look at the higher ups and ask, why is it every year we have to battle, like really battle, because we don't have a defense that can stand tall and give us the ball back and put the hands of Derek Carr so he can take care of things. And also, are we gonna forget about the 2017 defense? Do you guys remember in 2017, we didn't get our first interception on defense until week 12. Y'all remember that? Week 12. We had to wait 12 weeks just for the defense to pick somebody off. I mean, if your defense can't get an interception in the first 4 weeks, chances are you got high problems. You got a lot of problems on that side of the ball. And you know what's even the craziest part? It wasn't picked off by a corner. It wasn't picked off by a slot corner. It wasn't picked off by a safety. It was picked off by a linebacker that we just signed to the team. Y'all remember when Navarro Bowen had that interception in week 12 against Denver? 12 weeks. We couldn't get pressure. We couldn't get sacks. And we were the type that if our offense scored, our defense gave up a score. We score, they give up a score. We score, they give up a score. And it's been like that not once, not twice, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7 years we've been in the bottom barrel of defenses. We were even voted on an article, I forget which article it was, the worst defense of the decade. Going from 2010 to 2019, our defense has been straight trash, straight garbage. And that's when you have to look at management and go, how in the world for 7 to 8 years do you have a defense that hasn't done anything to help your quarterback on the other side? Now, I get it. Chances are if you got a good defense, you're probably going to have an average defense or below average defense. Chances are if you have a defense that's top notch, you're going to have an offense that's in the middle of the pack or below that. But still, for 7, I can understand 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 years. Shoot, maybe even 4 years. But for 7 straight years to put up a defense that can't help out and gives up scores. I mean, y'all remember that Miami Dolphins game? Oh my God, I can't even tell you. So yeah, this organization has failed in that department. Also, you know where they have failed on the offensive side? How come Derek Carr in his 7 years has never had a true #1 wide receiver? Yeah, we had Michael Crabtree. Yeah, we had Coop. We traded away Cooper. When John Gruden got here, we let go of Michael Crabtree. In the 2020 NFL draft, everybody knew we needed a wide receiver. Everybody knew that we needed a wide receiver. And what did the Raiders do? They draft a wide receiver. And mind you, we were the first team to pick a wide receiver in that draft. We drafted a wide receiver that wasn't even a #1 wide receiver on his team at Alabama. Now, I get it. Henry Ruggs was for an offensive scheme. We need somebody to stretch the field. But still, in my opinion, still to this day, I was like, why don't we take a #1 wide receiver in the draft to help Derek Carr out to be his #1? So you look at stuff like that. You look at how we traded away Rodney Hudson and sent him to the Cardinals, and that was one of our best center. Like, he was one of the best centers in the NFL, and we go ahead and trade him off. And we wonder why we blame Derek. Let's not also stop there. Let's talk about how Derek Carr has had 5 different head coaches in his 8 years. 5 different head coaches, from Tony Sperano, Dennis Allen, Jack Del Rio, John Gruden, and now Rich Bisaccia. And you know what's even the crazier part? Let's just say we don't make, first of all, I'm gonna knock on wood, so I hope we do make playoffs. But in the event that we don't, let's say we do get a new head coach and we do keep Derek Carr. In Derek Carr's 9th year, he will not have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 different head coaches in 9 years. And don't get me started on offensive coordinators. You tell me a quarterback that's gonna thrive, like literally thrive, in a situation where they don't build on the defense. You're having different head coaches every year. You're having different offensive play callers almost every year. And also, let's not forget, remember when last year our best wide receiver was Nelson Aguilar? And what do the Raiders do after the offseason? Not re-sign him. So before we say anything, let's look at Derek Carr's situation. You tell me a quarterback that can come in, play under these conditions, and tell me which one of those quarterbacks are going to thrive under those conditions. And maybe you want to ask yourself, maybe Derek Carr is better than what we thought. All right, now I made the argument for Derek Carr. I'm gonna make the argument against Carr, and I'm gonna tell you guys why the Raiders have given him a lot of talent, and maybe Derek Carr hasn't utilized it to its full potential. Hear me out, just listen real quick. Everybody wants to talk about the stuff the Raiders did not do for Derek Carr. They didn't give him a wide receiver. They didn't give him a defense. They put him through all this and all that, and no O-line and everything, and that is true. But I want to ask one question for the people who are diehards of Derek Carr. How come we never talk about the stuff that Derek Carr has had in his career? Have you ever had somebody tell you you should be thankful for what you have? You might look at a car and be like, dang, I wish I had that car. It's much nicer. My car is a bucket. There's somebody looking at you wishing that they had your car. You get what I'm saying? And no pun intended, I just thought I'd throw that in there. But let's look at the stuff that Derek Carr has had during his 8-year career. He's had Amari Cooper. He's had Michael Crabtree, which that duo, now, yeah, granted, it's not #1, but those two were deadly. And you Raider Nation, you remember those memories. And I know people who don't like Amari Cooper, but y'all remember that duo with Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree was deadly for our offense. Are we gonna forget about that? Derek Carr had some nice weapons for the 3 years those guys were together. Now let's also talk about, we had Donald Penn, we had Rodney Hudson on our O-line. You have Josh Jacobs now. You had Darren Waller, top 3 tight end in the NFL. You have Hunter Renfrow in the slot. And now let's also talk about the stuff that he's had on the defensive side. He did have a Charles Woodson, yes, in the secondary for the young guys. He did have a Khalil Mack, Ngakwe. We have a Max Crosby. We have a Denzel Perryman, a Casey Hayward. We have a KJ Wright. Like, I get it. You always want to talk about the stuff you don't have, but sometimes you have to look at the stuff you do have. And I want to ask a difficult question. So like I said, let's look at all the good stuff that Derek Carr has had in his 8 years. And you may say that's not enough for Derek Carr to succeed. And I would like to ask you this right here, right now. Now, I want you to look at the other top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL and ask yourself, and I want you guys to be brutally honest. Do you think if we put one of the top 10, any of those quarterbacks in the top 10 on this Raiders team, and has to deal with all the stuff that Derek Carr had to deal with in his 8 years, all the good stuff, you're telling me that team would only go to the playoffs once in that 8 years? Now, I really want you to think about it. Let's use an example. Let's say we put Russell Wilson on the same team. Like I said, he's going through the same thing. He has Michael Crabtree, Amari Cooper. He has that line that we had in 2020 and 2016. He has Josh Jacobs. He has Max Crosby and all that. You're telling me Russell Wilson wouldn't take that team to the playoffs at least twice during those 8 years? And I know what you might think. Well, he can't, Byron. And I've seen people say this. Well, Russell Wilson would never be good behind our O-line. And I would sit there and tell you, like, you do realize with the Seahawks, he's had one of the worst O-lines his whole career with the Seahawks. So yeah, even let's just say grab our worst offensive lineman from whatever year Derek Carr is. I don't think that would affect him. He's been in Seattle where he's had horrible O-lines most of his career. What about Tom Brady? You think Tom Brady wouldn't take that team to the playoffs at least twice in those 7 years? And I remember somebody telling me, well, Byron, he wouldn't survive with our wide receivers, our trash wide receivers. So, okay, let's pick the worst year for wide receivers. We'll talk about this year's wide receivers. And then that's when I'll sit there and be like, you're talking about the guy who's had mostly slot wide receivers his whole career. Danny Amendola, Brian LaFell, Julian Edelman, Wes Welker, Chris Hogan. You're telling me he wouldn't find a way to take that team to the playoffs? And are we going to forget in 2016, he won that Super Bowl with those slot receivers and without Gronkowski, his main weapon on offense? You're telling me Patrick Mahomes couldn't take that same team that Derek Carr has had for 8 years? And you're telling me he couldn't take that team to the playoffs at least 2 years? And what are you going to say? Like, oh, Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be great with our defense. So let's pick the worst defense out of that year. I don't care what year you're talking about. Line it up, 2018 defense or whatever the case is. You're telling me he wouldn't thrive there when in 2018, where his MVP season, you do know the Kansas City Chiefs defense ranked 31st. You see what I'm saying? Or take another person like Deshaun Watson. You're telling me he wouldn't thrive there? Take our worst offensive line. Deshaun Watson with the Texans has had horrible offensive lines. I think he might get that team to the playoff at least twice. Or what about Aaron Rodgers? Now you might sit there and say, well, if he didn't have our defense, he wouldn't be successful. And I would say you do realize in that 2011 year, the year that they just won the Super Bowl, and that year they went 15-1 and Aaron Rodgers was looking unstoppable, that defense ranked 31st in the NFL. All the weapons he's had in his 8 years with the Raiders, you're telling me if we took Derek out and put another quarterback in, they wouldn't make the playoffs at least twice? You get what I'm trying to say, y'all? So I'm trying to give it from both sides of perspective. So you guys let me know, has the Raiders organization failed Derek Carr, or has the Raiders organization not failed Derek Carr? Okay, so now let's go to the last subject, man, because I already know this is a super long video. Is Derek Carr on the hot seat? And once again, I'm going to make arguments for Derek Carr and why he's not on the hot seat this year at all, and people are blowing out of proportion. And I'm going to make arguments against Derek Carr, telling you he might be on the hot seat and this might be his last season here. So anyways, now I don't think people understand this about Derek Carr, and I understand people have critiques of Derek Carr. In his 8-year career, man, he's had 22 fourth quarter comebacks and 27 game-winning drives with the Raiders. And I think it's unfair on how much criticism Derek Carr gets because he only plays the quarterback position. Only plays quarterback. But sometimes I don't get it. The last 3 years, Derek Carr has improved, but yet it's like people aren't impressed. Like, yo, that's not good enough. And it's like, what do you want Derek to do? He don't play defense. He's not on the defensive side of the ball making tackles. It's not all Derek Carr's fault. But yet we put all this pressure on him, and I get it, it's his 8th year, we got to make playoffs, but sometimes it ain't his fault. Now granted, am I saying it's never his fault? No. Am I gonna go that far? No. But what I will say is this: I don't see anybody else putting this much amount of pressure on a quarterback. If Aaron Rodgers plays lights out but his defense didn't show up, you know what people are gonna say? Damn, the defense sucks. But in our situation, we don't get that. Derek Carr is the one bright spot from this organization over the last 8 years. We should be thankful we have a quarterback. I don't think people understand. It's hard getting quarterbacks. There's a reason why there's 32 teams and there's probably 10 teams that have an actual good quarterback and the rest are drafting or they're trying to develop. But most teams don't have an answer, and we do. There's a lot of people that would take Derek Carr right now. There's other fan bases that will take Derek Carr for their team. When the trade rumors were going on, there were a lot of teams that were like, yo, we can build around Derek Carr because obviously you guys haven't. And let's look at the stuff he's going through just this season. There's problems with the offensive lineman. His rookie tackle has to now move to guard. Left or right guard, I don't remember which one he played at the moment, out for the season. We had to shuffle this offensive line and put everything together and put a person here, put a person here, and yet Derek Carr still leads the league in passing yards. And let's not stop there. Let's also talk about the fact that why is he on the hot seat when his coach was just fired? I mean, yeah, let's call it what it is. You can say quit, but he was fired. As a new head coach, new offensive play caller, and look at what happened to Henry Ruggs. All these emotions through this season, and that's what people aren't talking about. But yeah, we look at him, we point the finger at him, and we tell him he isn't the answer. But then again, Derek Carr, this is his 8th season in the NFL. I don't think people understand this. With the quarterback position, you are going to get judged the most. That's just how it is. If you play quarterback, you're going to get all the praises when you win, and you're going to get all the hate when you lose. And unfortunately for Derek Carr, in his 8 years, he's done a lot of losing. Once again, not all Derek Carr. I'm just talking about the record he has. People are just going to naturally look at Derek, not the team, but look at Derek and go like, wow. What happened? And the reason why there's pressure put on Derek Carr is because he's slowly following into the category of Matt Stafford and Kirk Cousins. And you might go like, wait, he's better than both. I'm not comparing them stats wise. I'm talking about narrative wise. And the narrative about these guys are, yes, they're good. Yes, they put up great numbers, but at the end of the day, most people somewhat don't care. And I'll give you an example. Look at Kirk Cousins' number. Has anybody talked about this year how well Kirk Cousins is playing? No. And look at his numbers last year and all the 4 years he's been with the Minnesota Vikings. Look at those passing numbers. Look at those passing yards. And yet nobody really mentioned Kirk. You want to know why? Because this is Kirk Cousins' 10th season. He's at 10th or 11th season. People want to see if he can go far in the playoffs, and he's yet to do that. So unfortunately, that label is put on him. Is it all on him? No. But unfortunately, it's up to him to change that narrative about him. So the Vikings would have to get in the playoffs and go super far for Kirk Cousins to get the praise. You get what I'm trying to say? Same thing with Matthew Stafford. Puts up the numbers, but people really just don't care not saying don't care, but they go like, okay. But then they look at the other quarterbacks, because to me, if you judge players, you're judging them off of what they've done in the regular and postseason. And unfortunately for Stafford, Kirk Cousins, and Derek Carr, yes, the regular stats are off the charts. They're dope. They're nice. They're very good stats. But when it comes down to playoffs, you don't know what box to put them in. So you kind of have to move them aside and tell them that they can't sit at this table with these other quarterbacks, even though it is a team game. We know that, but we know the narrative about quarterbacks. This was happening before Derek Carr, and it's going to happen after Derek Carr. If you're a quarterback that just puts up really good numbers and you're not going to the playoffs, that's not on the quarterback. Unfortunate. Kirk Cousins really isn't going to get respected until they win in the playoffs, and that sucks that that's all put on Kirk. Yeah, people look at Matthew Stafford and look at those stats, but they're eventually going to be like, okay, what can you do in the playoffs? And it sucks. That's not all on Matthew Stafford, but that's just going to be the narrative. And unfortunately, Derek Carr falls into this box as well, where, yeah, the numbers are great. Everything's good. But I don't know. I've never seen him play in the playoffs. And guess what? People are always going to associate that with Derek Carr. So it sucks. So yeah, I think the pressure is on for him, because if he just puts up amazing passing numbers this year and we don't go to the playoffs, I can see the organization going like, all right, man, it's been 8 years. I don't know what else to do. We've given them this, we've given them that. We gave them the defense this year. And speaking of that, this year has been Derek Carr's best defense. Let's just keep it a buck. With Max Crosby, with Ngakwe, and the defense. I look at the defense like Casey Hayward, Nate Hobb, Denzel Perryman. This is the best defense he's ever had. And if you look at the 3 games with the Chicago Bears, with the New York Giants, and especially the Cincinnati Bengals, we've been told all Derek Carr's career, if he just had a defense, and then when you have a defense and they do what they're supposed to do and they put the offense out, and then Derek Carr struggles, then people start to look and go like, dang, is he really even that good? I thought if we just gave him the defense, everything would be fine. Especially after that Cincinnati Bengals game. Everybody, and let's keep it a buck, everybody remembers what was said on Raiders social medias, on Raider YouTubers page. Everybody was starting to say, hey man, it's been 8 years. It might be time to move on from Derek Carr. We've saw it 8 years. It might be best for both situations. Maybe he goes to a team that can actually build him, because he's not the problem, but he may not be the solution. We've seen that. So we can't can't act like that doesn't happen. Things are going to happen in the NFL. There are going to be players that lose their star player to injury. There's going to be teams that bring in a scheme and it doesn't work. No team has gone through what we have gone through this season. However, did we forget about the Baltimore Ravens? Remember at the beginning of the season, they lost all 3 of their running backs through freak injuries and stuff like that? Are we going to forget about how they lost their starting corner, Marcus Peters, right before the season started? And they started off 0-1, but look at where they are at now. If we don't make playoffs, yeah, it would suck because of all the stuff that happens to us, but I can also see people going like, all right, man, we've seen 8 years and maybe he's just not the solution. Anyways, Raider Nation, I understand people who are pro Derek Carr. I understand their arguments, and I understand people who critique Derek Carr. I understand both sides. And instead of being super biased to the left side or super biased to the right side, I want to give both sides of the perspectives. If you guys can, go to my second YouTube page, Byron Live Interviews. I'm going to start doing interviews on there in 2022. I really appreciate it if you guys subscribe. Anyways, Raider Nation, this is your boy Byron Live 95, and I am out.